So Steve, we're going to talk today about an evaluation that we did between the Gen 6 AUTODOME CPP 13 model and the newer CPP 16 model. Before we jump in, you want to cover what the differences are in part numbers?
Sure. The first Gen 6 CPP 13, the model number is NDP 7602-Z40, and the new CPP 16 is a NDP 7802-Z40.
Correct. Yep. So what we're little context between or on the video segment that we're going to be reviewing is side-by-side comparison. So we'll look at image quality differences, and then more also included is the IVA Pro Buildings package that we were running on both side-by-side. We'll evaluate from 25 feet all the way out to 1,000 feet in this video. We'll start off in a range of 25 feet to 150, and we'll look at what that looks like, and then we'll let the video play through and maybe make some comments on what it looks like as we get further out and how they perform.
Sure. From a tech spec thing, we will put a link in that explains the differences in the terminology that we're using, the CPP 13 versus the CPP 16, so that the tech heads can understand that part.
Right. Okay. So I'll go ahead and hit play here. And we have Tom out in the field in this one that will be our person in the scene, and we will track him all the way from 25, 50, on out to 150. But what are some things that you're noticing right off the bat as far as image quality?
I think the older model, the 7602, I think the picture is not as bright and punchy as the newer version. I think that's what I see right away that stands out the most. I also think if you look at some of the clarity at the distance and the difference in the colors of the grass in the background, you'll see that there's a pretty distinct difference in the browns and the greens.
Yeah, the color reproduction on the camera on the right, the newer CPP 16 7802, is very impressive comparatively. There's a noticeable difference in how that looks. So what we'll do now that Tom walked 25 to 150 feet, we noticed that both cameras kept him in
classified as a person.
Exactly. So the IVA had no problem doing that. So what we'll do is progress here and move these cameras out to the next position value. Okay, so now we're at 150 feet. Tom's going to go ahead and make his way out further, and we'll notice again some distinctions between the older CPP 13 cameras, a little brighter, maybe a little bit more washed out, would you say?
I think there's just a difference in the actual imager, and it's maybe some software that's running on it, but it looks like the older version of the camera is a little dingier, and where the newer one has that that contrast and the punch of the greens showing through a lot better than the original version. Right.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think the one on the left here is just electronically trying to brighten itself to, give us a usable picture within that darker area. The one on the right's doing an excellent job with keeping the color in line with what it actually was, and keeping the true blacks even in the signs instead of trying to brighten that. Now we'll notice here a little bit of a difference.
So now you notice that on the camera, the newer camera, the 7802, that camera maintains its classification of Tom as a person. You see that it maintains its tracking of where Tom went, came and went from, so on and so forth. So I think this is a huge difference in the two cameras, in that the CPP 13 camera and the CPP 16 camera, the 16 obviously has far better capability when it comes to this IVA and the classification of the objects, even at the distance of what we're looking there.
Right, and I think it's important to remember that we are even optically zoomed to this position, and we still see that the 16 does far better job in accurately tracking the individual, or Tom, walking through the scene. Even out now, he's beyond 500 feet now, making his way to 800.
Yeah, I think that's again, that's probably the major difference is the capability that the newer CPP version brings to the table, the added functionality and its additional capabilities for managing the IVA.
Okay. We're going to let this play through a little bit here. We're going to progress, and our next pre-positioned shot for both cameras will be at 800. It'll capture 800 and then to 1,000, and we can see a comparison between the two. So we'll go ahead and jump to that. Okay, we're at 800 feet. See Tom out there again. But I think both cameras are making usable pictures. Obviously, for the trained eye, you're probably going to lead towards the CPP 16 on the right.
Sure. I think, again, there's a lot of differences in the image and the quality. If you start to look at the individual signs and the things like that, and you look at the difference in some of the items in the background, you'll see that the newer camera, the 7802, I think it has a crisper, punchier picture in terms of the level of detail. And you'll also notice that, again, the newer camera, the CPP 16 camera, maintains its classification of Tom as a person, where the other one doesn't have any classification whatsoever.
Correct. Okay. Well, if anyone wants to check out some more information or get some more information on maybe comparing these two models, or wants a little bit more information on maybe upgrading to the CPP 16, how do they get a hold of us?
Well, they can even get a demo if they'd like. They can get a hold of us at support@midchest.com.
Great. Thanks for your time, Steve.